Hello, Facebook, YouTube, everybody that's joining us right now. My name's Nick Maloney. I'm a reporter with the CBC's Indigenous Unit. I apologize for the wind right now. As you can see, we're out on a boat. We're in the middle of Pictou Harbour right now, the ancestral waters of the Mi'kmaq people here in Mi'kma'ki, about 2 hours away from Jabuktuk, Halifax. We're taking part right now, we're on a boat that's taking part in what's called the No Pipe land and sea rally against Northern Pulp, a pulp mill here just right inside the interior of Pictou Landing in the area and the surrounding area. Today with me to talk about water security, to talk about the issues, I'm joined by Chief Andrea Paul. Chief Andrea Paul of Pictou Landing First Nation, and Councillor Derek Francis as well. Well, all of you for joining us, and thank you for having us today.
Oh, well, all right, we're doing. Thanks for coming.
So just a reminder to all of those on YouTube and Facebook, we are going to be taking questions related to water security, about Pictou Landing, about Northern Pulp, about developments, natural resource developments in Nova Scotia and all over Mi'kma'ki here. So please feed us all the questions you've got. If we can't answer one, apologies in advance, but we'll try our best. It's nice and casual out here on the water. So Chief Andrea,
Yes.
Can you just give me a brief explanation as to what's actually taking place around us? We've got, it looks like about 100 boats that's actually around us.
So right now we are all participating in a no pipe rally, and what that means is that Northern Pulp has come up with a plan for their new treatment effluent site. And a part of that plan is a discharge point. In the past, they would discharge in Pictou Harbour, and because of legislation that has come about, they can no longer do that, and that will stop in January 31st, 2020. So Northern Pulp, in order to continue to operate, they need to come up with a new solution or a new plan as to how they're going to deal with their treatment. And so they have decided that they are going to go with a treatment plant on their side. However, the discharge has to go somewhere, and the plan involves a discharge and straight into these waters. So that is definitely, there's definitely huge opposition for this. They will be dumping treated effluent. How much is it?
It's, I know, it's about 75 million liters a day.
Yeah, so that's...
Warm treated water.
Yes, so that's, and it's fresh water at that, right? So there's a lot of concerns about how that's going to affect not just the water, but everything that lives in the water. And I've continued to say that we are the voice of this water. We are the voice of everything that lives in the water. We have an inherent, it's inherent in us as Mi'kmaq people that we need to do our protection and to help the water and to help everything that lives in that water. And it's also, we have an inherent right to the fish. And so we have to protect what is ours, and not just what is ours, but as you can see, what is everybody's here, right?
Our chiefs.
So we're looking at the chiefs from New Brunswick, PEI, and across Nova Scotia here as well. We're one of 3 lead boats that are leading this procession into Pictou Harbour. There's a land rally taking place in Pictou right now in the ground, and they're going to be meeting this huge group of boats right now from all across the Atlantic region down at Pictou Landing waterfront to talk about the issue and to voice their concerns to the government here, to Northern Pulp as well, which is sitting just across the harbour as well. Derek, can you tell me a little bit about the history here? Northern Pulp has been operating for about 50 years. Tell me about the OSTEG and about the environmental issues that are taking place there.
Oh, it's been a big, huge impact over in Pictou Harbour. OSTEG, well, we lost all our fishing in there. We lost all our clam digging. Even the hunting around there is no good now. Now they want to bring that water that they destroyed our OSTEG and bring it into the Northumberland Strait.
And just to clarify there, Aseg is a Mi'kmaq word for other room. It's a smaller pond or lagoon area just down from the mill where Northern Pulp has been setting their water to aerate it. And take me through, I guess, what's taking place there.
Well, right now, our reserve is right there, our community. If you could show them that part right there. And just right behind there, not even 2 miles behind there, is where Aseg is. And that there is all polluted right now. Now they want to bring it up this way, on the other side of us. No, that's not going to happen.
And why is it that this new project, I mean, obviously they've put some money into fixing the Aseg and Pictou Harbour, and now this new plan is to direct it away from the reserve and away from the community. Isn't that an improvement on what's taking place right now?
No, they're going to be dumping fresh, warm water into where studies have shown lobster larvae can survive in that warm temperatures. And all this is our fishing ground here, fishing area all the way across in this street. Our mackerel, our herring, our crab, everything. On inshore, there's our clams, everything, right? And not to mention the pollution that washes up, right? It goes up in our shores, it goes to our endangered, we got birds up in the shoreline there, and everything is being killed.
We've got a question, actually. Just a reminder here, too, for those on YouTube and Facebook that we are taking questions, so please chime in if you have anything that we're not going through, things you'd like clarified. Bonnie D asks, what is Northern Pulp going to do with its wastewater at this point? It's going to go through a pipeline, but then where does it go? What happens to it, Chief?
So right now, it's still actually going into Pictou Harbour until the legislation date of January 31st, 2020. The plan is that the effluent, what was the question again? Sorry.
Well, after it leaves the site, what is Northern Pulp actually going to be doing with this water? What happens to it after it gets treated and then
gets discharged? So it'll go through the treatment on the mill side, an AST. So their plan is an AST treatment system. So once it goes through the process of the treatment there,
here we go, guys.
The discharge, the treated effluent will be dumped into the Northumberland Strait waters. So I want you to think about this. This is still water. This is still effluent that's going to be contaminated. We've asked a lot of great questions about why don't they do a loop system? And the response was that the chemicals would corrode the pipes. So does that make us comfortable with knowing that this effluent is going in the waters? If it's going to corrode pipes, what is it going to do to the ecosystem of the waters here? That's really scary. And the other piece is that the modeling that they used, the reason why they picked this discharge point was so it would have minimal effects of polluting Pictou Harbour. So there is pollution. So there is going to be discoloration. So there is going to be issues with this water. Those were their words. That is what they said. I know they spin it off with they have modern technology. It meets all the guidelines. It is still pollution.
And the other thing they told us too, that their famous saying was, the solution to pollution is dilution. I don't see how that, we've been having this water, same color water for 50 years now. There's no dilution here. So,
Derek, tell me, we touched on this just now, but what do you think some alternatives might be here? Has the band considered what else might happen instead of the pipeline?
No, see, our business is with Pictou Harbour and our waters here. That's a different company, right? It's up to them what they do with it, as long as they don't put it in our waters. Like, they go make their own lagoon, or.
Would you be okay? I mean, the treatment area is surrounded by reserve land. Would you be comfortable with a pipeline? Well, with the boat's moving quite a bit here, folks. Sorry, I don't want to get you sick. Would the band, do you think, would be okay? Would you be okay personally with a pipeline over land moving the water?
I don't want no pipe in our water at all. None.
What about on land, though, out towards, I mean, it's going to the Northumberland Strait either way. I guess that's the point, right?
No. It's not going into Northumberland Strait at all. That's why we're here. That's why we're trying to stop this.
Has Northern Pulp put forth any other sort of options for this outside of the pipeline?
Yeah, they have, but I don't know how much I'm supposed to disclose of it. But but they had options, 3 options I think they had, and the options they gave us, the most what would you call it? The number 1 option would be to dump it in here.
Okay, right. Chief, I've got another question here from a viewer, if you've got a minute.
My ship keeps going up.
Yeah, it is windy out here. Just for those of you who are joining us, I'm Nick Maloney with the CBC's Indigenous Unit. I'm here with Chief Andrea Paul of Pictou Landing First Nation and Councillor Derek Francis. We're out in the middle of Pictou Harbour. This boat is part of a protest called the No Pipe Rally. At Northern Pulp, a paper mill in this area, is considering pumping effluent into the Northumberland Strait just outside of this community off the coast of Nova Scotia and Mi'kma'ki here. We are taking your questions, and I've got one here from Lara Russell. She asks, how can people support this protest?
Hi, Lara. There is I don't know if you use social media, but on Facebook there is a Facebook page. There's one called Friends of the Northumberland Strait, and there is a No Pipe Rally page. So you can actually go on there and show your support. I think the best way, though, would be on those there are links to a letter writing campaign, and there are ways that you can send your letters and show your support, and I would ask that everybody does that. I know we have also engaged with the Canada Environmental Assessment Agency. We are requesting a federal environmental assessment on this project. We are really hoping that will happen, because we need all of you to come together and to support this opposition. We do not want effluent going into the strait.
That begs a great question, Chief. If I've got another follow-up here, the history of relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous fishermen in the Atlantic region through the past few decades hasn't always been a friendly one. Can you talk to me about what that relationship looks like now in relation to the Northern Pulp Mill?
It's incredible. I met with the chiefs yesterday, and we were talking about this, and I said, we have a history of non-Indigenous and Indigenous fishers having conflict, with regards to our fishing rights and their access to fishing. And today, to be able to witness the solidarity between all fishers and from all the maritime provinces, they have come together. They came together very quickly. When Northern Pulp released their idea, I knew that there was going to be strong opposition from the fishermen. We all did. And so they gathered quite quickly. And I remember attending the information session with Northern Pulp and Dylan at the Wellness Center, and there were hundreds of fishermen there from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI. I am just, to be out here and to see the unity and the solidarity, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want to protect our waters. We want to protect our fishing. We want to ensure that our children are not fighting this battle for the next 50 years. It has to stop.
On the topic of relationships as well, we're all just reacting right now to the amount of boats that have actually accumulated behind now.
That is.
There are tens of boats, dozens of boats at this point. It was expected that over 1,000 people were actually going to turn out for this protest, both the land and sea rally parts of things. We have another question here from a viewer, from Annette LeBlanc. Annette, thank you very much for joining us today. Annette asks, what do you think of Ian Rankin, our Minister of Lands and Forestry for Nova Scotia? Now, understanding there needs to be a relationship at this point. What's kind of taken place with that relationship, and where does it stand at this point?
Well, because we're in consultation, there isn't too much of a relationship right now. Thank you for the question. So he has a job to do, and I understand that. I often say I wouldn't want to be in his shoes right now, because whatever decision he makes, there's going to be a group of people that are going to be very upset by it. So right now, I don't have much of a relationship with him due to the consultation that we're involved in.
Derek, another one for you here. We're on a fishing boat right now, and I understand that you captain your own boat, correct?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Tell me, what are your concerns in terms of fisheries, First Nations fisheries, or fisheries in general in the Northumberland Strait?
Well, when they put this pipe in, that water they're dumping in is going to be killing their lobster larvae. It's warm water that's going in, and lobster larvae can't survive in that. And they try to tell us they did studies, but they can't show us any proof that they did studies. They just keep on telling us, oh, we have experts. They can't name their experts. And where they're planning on dumping this pipe is just 100 feet from my ground, lobster ground. 100 feet from where I herring fish. So,
and that's your primary source of income,
yes,
right?
Yes, it is.
And as well, you just said it yourself, an inherent right as a First Nations person in this side of the country. So what do you think is a popular, or not a popular, but a common reflection on the fisheries? Are people actually concerned about their livelihoods?
Oh, that is a big concern. That's why all these boats are here. That's why we got all these supporters on land. We have all these supporters don't want no pipe in our water because of our fisheries. All these are probably from here to Antigonish, all the way across the coastline in Nova Scotia. It's all going to be affected by this. And it's families everywhere, our fishing communities along the coastline. And everybody's upset about it. Everybody.
You've been around for a little while in this community. I'm not trying to age you or anything like that, but you would have seen some of the effects of Pictou Harbour. We've got a question from Tamara Kelly Beckett, and Tamara asks, what type of medical issues do you see happening now or potentially in the future on the reserve because of pollution? What's happened in the past, at least?
Right now, we have a high cancer rate in our community. High cancer rate and breathing. A lot of breathing problems. We have at least within the last few weeks, few years, we had 16 deaths of just cancer. And it's not going to be just all compact into one reserve now. It's going to be spread out among all the coastline. Tell us how that's not bad for Nova Scotia.
Do you know, is there research that actually links the pollution from Northern Pulp paper mill to those deaths?
No, they keep on telling us it's not, but being a small community of 700 and some people, all those deaths in there from cancer alone, how can you not say it's not from that? The only thing that's sending pollution to our waters, right? To our community.
Another question here from Adam Davies. Adam, thank you for forwarding your question to us. He asks, and this is one that neither of us might be able to answer, but Adam's wondering how long a federal environmental assessment usually takes.
I think I heard 2 years, I think it was. I'm not sure if I heard it right or I read something different, but I think I heard 2 years.
Adam, I know from other stories that I've covered in the federal fisheries realm that an environmental assessment takes numerous years. There's a lot of research, especially when it comes to water. There's surveys that need to be done, a consultation part with the surrounding communities, First Nations communities included. That takes a long time, and they need to formulate a document, cross all of their I's and dot their T's, if you forgive me for that. So it's likely that it's going to take a couple of years to get that done. Now we did, Chief Andrea did mention that the band has just requested, I was speaking with the band lawyer earlier, they've just requested that the federal government step in and designate this proposal by Northern Pulp as a federal government issue. Simply put, I guess it means that they want the federal government to look at the environmental impacts, potential environmental impacts, outside of the provincial environmental assessment, because they think that it warrants another good look. There's a lot of public interest in there. So thank you so much for that question. Derek, I'm just wondering, what do the young people in the community think of all this? I mean, a lot of people, the pulp mill has been here for 50 years. It's been around through, a full generation of people, essentially. Do you have an understanding as to what the young people in the community think?
Young people are being educated about what's being put into our waters. They know about this boat harbor. My daughter's been fighting this too, and this is only my third term of council. My daughter's been fighting this with me for the 3 years, and I've been fighting this for as long as I can remember. My dad was in council before me. So yeah, kids do know what's going on.
And it's not just, I mean, this isn't just a political issue for your community, right? No. This is not just your community versus a corporation. We're talking about life on the water, a livelihood of fishing in First Nations community. Largely, it's on the East Coast here. It's the number one source of, it's the number one own source revenue for a lot of communities, and First Nations communities especially. Tell me a little bit about you as a person, about, I guess, your connection to the land and to the water here. Is that something that is a large part of your action?
I hunt these woods, I fish these waters. I've been doing that since I was a baby. And I'm pretty sure my dad's been doing that since he was young. And now we won't be able to do that no more. We're running out of pollution everywhere. They got pollution up in this harbor. Now we got pollution going out to the Northumberland Strait. But there's nowhere else going to be left. What are we going to live on? Canned food now?
I do have a question here from looks like Digi Gamer. Thanks for joining us, Digi Gamer. They're asking, are the animals in danger here? You hunt, you fish. Have you seen a noted, difference in populations of animals around here, or do you know of any research, at least, that's gone into that?
No, I never heard of any real research, but I know for a fact that animals are affected.
Well, if we go back to the boat harbor situation,
that's where the affected animals would be, right? Because they drink that water. They live on that water. They live all around it. That's the only water supply they have. And when you cut open a deer now, you can smell boat harbor in it. Even if you take them out somewhere else to cut them up, you can still smell boat harbor inside their guts.
Thank you very much, Derek. I guess we'll go for one last question here. We are getting close to the marina. We're going to join up with the land protesters here. We're getting closer and closer to land. We've got, honestly, it looks like hundreds of boats. It goes back a few kilometers. So we're going to get back in. I do have one last question here from Robin Flory Beecham. Thank you, Robin, for joining us, and everybody who's joined us today. She asks, or they ask, has there been any response by the Premier of Nova Scotia regarding this issue?
With this issue, there hasn't been a response. I can honestly say, though, that we do have a good relationship with the Premier of Nova Scotia. It was his government that had taken the strong stand to close Boat Harbour. We've been promised many times before in different years from different governments that they would deal with the Boat Harbour issue. This government was actually the one that did the legislative date. They came up with the date of January 31st, 2020, and right now I don't have much conversations with the Premier with regards to this. I did have a meeting with him, and we shared our opposition to this pipeline project and asked that they need to find a different way to do things. So right now, not directly. There was some indirect conversations with the Premier.
One last follow-up on that before we disembark here. After the protest ends today, what do you expect to happen? Are you looking for a response from Northern Pulp? Are you looking for a response from the province or the federal government? And what are your people going to be doing going forward?
I would like a response. In reality, I know I'm not going to get a response from either the government or the Northern Pulp. What I want to happen is that this is just the beginning. This is not going to stop. I'm guessing that there is going to be more activities. I know that Northern Pulp is delayed in their submission towards the environmental assessment due to some issues that they have come up with. And to me, that's just another way that Mother Nature works to say, we're not making this easy for you either. We don't want this in our waters. And even today, it's so beautiful out. It was supposed to be raining. You know, we have, and I'm, you know, as cheesy as people may say it sounds, we have Mother Nature that is very pleased today that we are here in solidarity protecting her. And yes, our ancestors are here. I can feel them with us. We were up at the deck there talking earlier, and one of our counselors said, "Can you imagine?" One of our counselors, his dad was the chief, and she says, "Can you imagine how proud your dad must be right now looking down?" And you know, our past chiefs, they've been fighting this for the past 60 years, and without their guidance and their leadership over the years, this is why we are where we are today. They built us so that we're stronger and that we are capable of fighting this every single day. So thank you, and for all of you that have tuned in, I really appreciate it. Do what you can, support our efforts here. Thank you.
Chief Andrea Paul, the Chief of Pictou Landing First Nation, and Councillor Derek Francis. Walaliok, thank you very much for having us. A big thank you to everybody that tuned in today as well. Thank you to Captain AJ Francis, who's at the helm at the moment. We'll get one last look, if we can, at the amount of boats that are gathering up behind us. My name's Nick Maloney. I'm a reporter with CBC's Indigenous Unit. We're out in the middle of Pictou Harbour on board a boat that's taking part in the No Pipe rally against Northern Pulp paper mill in Mi'kma'ki, Nova Scotia. Again, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you all again soon on Facebook and YouTube.